There was this morning about 6 months ago when Madison laughed so hard at my terrible pancake flip that coffee came out of her nose. We had been together 3 years living in our shared apartment in Portland, Oregon for 18 months. Her best friend since college, Kyle, was always around, but I figured that was just normal friendship. Then one evening, Kyle made this comment about guys like me, something in his tone that felt sharp, but I brushed it off, trusting Madison's judgment. I should have paid attention to that feeling. Before we dive into what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. If you have ever dealt with someone who tried to poison a relationship from the inside out, hit that like button. And subscribe, because this story has a twist that will make you rethink everything about boundaries and accountability. Now let me tell you about the night everything fell apart. Madison and I met at a mutual friend's barbecue one summer 3 years ago. She worked as a graphic designer, and I was a project manager at a construction firm. Our life together had this comfortable rhythm. We cooked together on Sundays, spent our weekends hiking in Forest Park, just enjoying each other. When Madison decided to quit her corporate job to pursue freelance design work 8 months ago, I supported her completely. I wanted her to chase her dream, so I covered our expenses while she built her client base. Rent was $1,800 a month. Groceries ran about 600, utilities around 200, and her car insurance was $150. All told, I was covering roughly $2,750 monthly. Madison promised she would contribute once her freelance work picked up, and I believed her. I wanted to believe her. Our place was a 2-bedroom loft in the Pearl District. Madison had converted that second bedroom into her design studio, and I made sure she had everything she needed. I bought her a professional desk setup for $1,200, kept up her Adobe subscription at $55 monthly, and got her a new MacBook for $2,400 about 6 months ago. I saw it as an investment in our future and her happiness. Kyle had known Madison since their freshman year at University of Oregon. He was a high school teacher, and initially I actually appreciated the guy. He made Madison laugh, seemed supportive, and I thought it was healthy for her to have close friends. But looking back now, I can see how gradually things shifted. The first 6 months, Kyle would join us for occasional dinners, group hangouts, nothing unusual. Then from months 7 through 12, he started having weekly coffee catch-ups with Madison. By months 13 through 18, Kyle began dropping by our apartment, unannounced, staying for hours at a time. These past few months before everything exploded, he was showing up 3 or 4 evenings every single week. There were incidents that bothered me, small things I kept swallowing down. Kyle would critique my career, saying things like construction management. So you just tell people what to do. He and Madison developed inside jokes that deliberately excluded me from conversations. Kyle would stay until 11 at night on work nights, and I would feel like a stranger in my own home, watching them laugh together while I sat there wondering when he would finally leave. Once I came home at 6 in the evening and found Kyle and Madison watching their show this series, I thought Madison and I had been watching together. That stung more than I wanted to admit. When I brought up my concerns to Madison gently, carefully, she shut me down every time. He is harmless, babe. Is. We are just friends? You are being insecure. I am allowed to have friends. But the comment that really cut deep was when she said, Kyle has been there for me longer than you have. I swallowed that pain and said nothing. 3 weeks before everything fell apart, I planned this surprise weekend trip to Cannon Beach for Madison's birthday. I booked a boutique hotel for $450 for 2 nights, made dinner reservations at this seafood restaurant. She had mentioned wanting to try and took Friday off work so we could leave early and make the most of it. Thursday night, the evening before our trip, Kyle showed up at our door. Madison told me Kyle was having a crisis because his ex-girlfriend had contacted him. He stayed on our couch until 1:30 in the morning crying, and Madison sat with him the entire time holding his hand. I went to bed alone, setting my alarm for 6 so we could hit the road. Friday morning, Madison looked exhausted. In the car during our drive, she seemed distant, checking her phone constantly. She was texting Kyle throughout the entire 2-hour trip. At the hotel, she barely noticed the ocean view I had specifically requested. That night at dinner, she brought up Kyle 4 times. I hope Kyle is okay. Maybe I should have stayed. The weekend felt hollow. Madison was physically there beside me, but emotionally she was somewhere else entirely. We returned Sunday afternoon and Kyle was waiting at our apartment when we pulled up. Madison's face lit up when she saw him, this brightness that had not appeared once during our entire romantic getaway. I felt something cold and heavy settle in my chest. The weekend I had planned, paid for, arranged around her meant nothing compared to 10 minutes with Kyle. 2 weeks after that beach trip, Kyle's behavior shifted from subtly hostile to openly aggressive. He stopped even pretending to be friendly with me. I started noticing a pattern in the things he would say, always in front of Madison, always with this concerned tone that made him sound caring instead of manipulative. "Madison, you have seemed really stressed lately. Is everything okay at home? I worry about you. You are not yourself anymore. Remember how confident you used to be before you moved in with Jay? You have been isolating yourself. We barely hang out anymore." They had just hung out 3 days before that comment. "I just want you to be happy." Are you happy Kyle had found this perfect weapon, this language that sounded like care, but was actually poison? He would never directly accuse me of anything. Instead, he would paint me as controlling without ever saying the word. He mentioned to Madison that healthy relationships do not involve financial dependence. He started sending her articles about financial abuse and coercive control. He began calling me your landlord instead of your boyfriend when talking to Madison. And Madison, she started echoing his language. "I feel like I cannot make decisions without considering your money. Maybe I am too dependent on you. Kyle thinks I should be more independent." Every conversation we had, I could hear Kyle's words coming out of her mouth. I tried to communicate clearly. "I do not hold money over your head. You know that. I supported your dream of going freelance. I wanted to help. Kyle does not live with us. He does not understand our dynamic." But Madison would just look at me like I was proving his point and say, "Why are you attacking my friend?" 3 days before Madison moved out, I was working late on a major project deadline. I got home at 9:30 at night and found Kyle and Madison in our living room, with Madison crying. Kyle had his arm around her and he gave me this look, this triumphant expression that made my blood run cold. I asked what was wrong. Madison said Kyle helped me realize something. Kyle immediately cut in with, "Maybe you should give her space." I said, "This is my apartment." "Madison, what is going on?" That is when Kyle made his move. "You are being aggressive right now. This is exactly what we talked about." Madison looked at me with fear in her eyes and said, "I feel unsafe when you raise your voice." I was not raising my voice. I had just walked through the door after a 12-hour workday. I just got home and want to know what is happening. Kyle jumped on that immediately. "That is gaslighting. You are making her question her own feelings." I realized right then that I was being set up. Every word I said would be twisted. Kyle had spent weeks, maybe months, preparing Madison for this exact moment. The script was already written. I just had not known I was supposed to be playing the villain. I sat down and tried to stay calm. "Madison, I love you. If I have done something wrong, please tell me directly." But Madison would not look at me. Kyle answered for her. "The fact that you cannot see what you are doing is the problem." Then Kyle delivered his diagnosis. "I have been reading about toxic relationships." Madison exhibits classic signs. He rattled off this list: anxiety, second-guessing herself, apologizing, constantly losing touch with friends. I countered, she talks to her friends. She talks to you literally every day. Kyle's response was instant. "I do not count. I am safe. You are the problem." Then came the ultimatum I never saw coming. Kyle looked at Madison and said, "Madison, you can stay with me. My second bedroom is empty." Madison, through her tears, said, "Maybe I need some space to think." I tried one more time. "Space? We live together. We can work through this." Kyle pounced. "See? He will not even let you have space. That is control." I saw it all clearly in that moment. Kyle wanted Madison. Maybe not romantically, I honestly do not know, but he wanted to own her attention, her loyalty, her time. I was the obstacle standing between him and the total access, and Kyle had found the perfect modern weapon to remove me. Weaponized therapy language, terms that sounded educated and caring, but were being used as ammunition. 2 days of tense silence followed. Madison barely spoke to me. Kyle's texts lit up her phone constantly. I could see the notifications even though she tried to hide her screen. Sunday evening, April 7th. I tried one final time. Madison, can we please talk? Just us. She said, I have made a decision. I am moving out. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Based on what? Kyle's amateur psychology. She said, based on how you make me feel. I asked her, how do I make you feel? Give me one concrete example. She could not. She just repeated Kyle's phrases like a script. Controlled, dependent, stuck. Madison called Kyle. He arrived with his SUV in 30 minutes. He had clearly been waiting nearby. They packed Madison's clothes toiletries laptop while I stood there watching 3 years disappear into boxes. Kyle gave me this triumphant look as they loaded her things. Madison would not meet my eyes. Her last words to me were, I will come back for the rest of my stuff later. I need time to figure out who I am without you. I said, you are 26 years old. You know who you are. Kyle grabbed her arm gently. Let's go, Madison. This is unhealthy. They left. I stood in our apartment surrounded by everything we had built together. Her art still hung on the walls, her books filled the shelves. Her coffee mug sat in the sink from that morning. I felt gutted hollow. But underneath the pain, something else was starting to build. Anger. The first 3 days after Madison left, I processed everything alone. I did not send desperate texts begging her to come back. I did not call her crying. Instead, I did something practical. I sat down at my dining table with a spreadsheet and started calculating. I went through 18 months of bank statements, pulling every single expense I had covered for Madison. Rent, utilities, groceries, gas money, car insurance, phone bill. Streaming services we watched together, the MacBook, the desk setup, dinners out, vacation costs. Everything. The total came to $52,340. I broke it down carefully. Regular monthly expenses of $2,750 times 18 months equaled $49,500. One-time purchases including the MacBook, the professional desk, her phone when hers broke, and half the furniture she had picked out for our place came to $7,400. I subtracted the $4,560 she had managed to contribute during a few good months. Net total, $52,340. I stared at that number. I had supported her dream of becoming a freelance designer. I had believed in her. And Kyle had taken that support and turned it into a weapon against me, convinced Madison that my generosity was actually control. Day 4 after Madison left, I woke up with absolute clarity. I made a decision that might have seemed petty to some people, but it felt completely right to me. I created an invoice, professional format, clean and detailed. I itemized every single expense organized by category and date. I marked it due upon receipt. Then I added a note at the bottom. Per your best friend Kyle's advice about financial independence, I am helping you understand the true cost of the dependence you felt so burdened by. I hope this provides the clarity you were seeking. Here is where I made my choice. I addressed it to Kyle's house. Why? Because Madison was staying with him. Kyle had orchestrated this entire situation. Kyle wanted to save Madison from financial abuse. Fine. Kyle could handle the financial responsibility. My logic was simple. Kyle had convinced Madison she was being controlled through money. Kyle had provided the alternative housing. Kyle should see exactly what that support actually cost. I was not expecting to get the money back. I knew I would not see a dime. But I needed to make a point. Support is not control. Support is sacrifice. It is work. It is choosing someone else's dreams over your own comfort, and it has value. I mailed it certified mail signature required. I wanted proof that Kyle received it, that he held that invoice in his hands and saw the numbers. Then I sent one text to Madison, my only communication since she left. I have sent a full accounting of our financial arrangement to Kyle's address. Since he is your financial advisor now, he should have all the information. I hope you find what you are looking for. Then I blocked her number. Not out of spite, out of self-preservation. If she wanted to reach me after that, she would have to put in actual effort. She would have to want it enough to find another way. Days 5 through 10, I focused entirely on myself. I hit the gym every morning before work lifting until my arms shook. I took on extra projects at the office to stay busy. I cleaned out Madison's studio room, packed up her art supplies, and donated her desk setup to a women's shelter. The irony was not lost on me. I kept the MacBook, though. I had paid for it, and she had taken her personal laptop with her. No contact came from Madison, no response to the invoice. Good. I felt myself getting stronger with each passing day. The apartment felt lighter somehow without the constant undercurrent of Kyle's influence poisoning everything. I had forgotten what peace felt like. Day 11, my phone rang at 6:30 in the morning. Unknown number. I ignored it. It rang again immediately. And again. Finally, I answered. Kyle's voice came through strained and desperate. Jay, we need to talk. I said, no, we do not. He pushed. It is about Madison. I said, she made her choice. You helped her make it. His voice cracked slightly. It is not what I thought. I said, not my problem, and started to hang up. Kyle spoke quickly, words tumbling out. She is driving me insane. She will not leave. She is on my couch 24/7. She expects me to cook for her. She is crying constantly. She will not look for her own place. She is mean to my cat. She ate all my groceries in 3 days. She is redecorating my apartment without asking. She invited her sister to stay too, and now there are 2 of them taking over my space. I cannot do this. You have to take her back. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. First time in 11 days. You wanted to save her. Congratulations, she is all yours. Kyle's voice rose. That is not fair. She is your girlfriend. I corrected him. Was, past tense. You made sure of that. You made. Then I hung up. Over the next 3 days, Kyle called me 17 times. He left voicemails that progressed from annoyed to desperate to nearly panicked. The voicemail highlights were almost entertaining. She keeps asking why you have not called. I told her you were toxic, but she is starting to question it. She maxed out my credit card on art supplies. Did you know she does this? I have not slept in my own bed in 4 days. She has taken over my bedroom because the couch hurts her back. She said you always made her favorite pasta. What kind? She will not eat anything else now. This invoice you sent, she says these numbers are way off. She says you only paid for some things. But also she has no money and needs me to cover everything. I am a teacher. I cannot afford this. The final voicemail was pure desperation. Please, I was wrong. I did not understand. She needs you. I need you to take her back. I will apologize. I will tell her I was wrong about everything. Just please come get her. I saved every single voicemail. Then I sent all of them to Madison's sister's number. I had it saved from family gatherings we had attended together. My caption was simple. Thought you should know where your sister is staying and how it is going. Then I blocked Kyle's number too. Day 16 after Madison left, she showed up at my apartment building. She buzzed the intercom. I saw her on the security camera. She looked disheveled, exhausted, nothing like the confident woman who had walked out with Kyle 2 weeks earlier. I did not let her up. I spoke through the intercom. Jay, please, we need to talk. I said, no, we do not. She tried again. I made a mistake. Kyle, he was not right about everything. I said, that is quite an admission. Can I come up just to talk? I said no. Madison started listing excuses through the intercom. Kyle had manipulated her. She was confused. She missed me. She missed our apartment. She missed our life together. I asked her questions she could not answer. What exactly did I do that was toxic silence? Did I ever actually stop you from doing anything? More silence? Did I hold money over your head? She said, no, and trailed off. But what? But Kyle told you to feel that way? I shared my realization with her through that intercom speaker. You did not leave because I was toxic. You left because taking my support made you feel guilty. And instead of communicating that, instead of us working through it together like partners, you let Kyle turn your guilt into my crime. You let him convince you that I was the problem. Madison was crying now. I know. I am sorry. Can we start over? Please, my answer was clear. No, because you did not just leave. You believed I was abusive. You let Kyle convince you that my love was control. You looked at everything I did for you, every sacrifice I made, and you saw manipulation instead of partnership. I cannot be with someone who sees me that way. She said Kyle is the one who sees you that way, not me. I said you chose to see me through Kyle's eyes instead of your own. That is actually worse. I laid out the terms through that intercom. Your remaining stuff is packed in boxes in the building storage room. You can pick it up with the building manager present. Not from me directly, about the money I am not expecting repayment. That invoice was a mirror, not a demand. But you need to understand something. Support is not a debt. But it also is not owed. I gave freely because I loved you. You took freely because you needed it. That chapter is closed now. Then I asked, how is living with your savior working out? Madison admitted quietly, it is awful. He is not who I thought he was. I said he is exactly who he always was. You just were not on the receiving end of his need for control before. The irony hung between us. My final words to Madison were these. I hope you find what you are looking for. I hope you learn to value people who love you before someone like Kyle convinces you they are all toxic. But I am not your person anymore. I am not your safety net. Good luck. I ended the intercom call. I watched through the camera as she walked away, slowly, shoulders slumped. I felt sad, yes, but I also felt free. The weeks that followed taught me things I needed to learn. I did not jump into dating. I did not try to fill the void Madison left. Instead, I sat with it, learned from it. I started going to therapy for the first time in my life. My therapist helped me understand patterns I had never examined before. I had a tendency to overgive not because people demanded it from me, but because proving my worth through usefulness felt safer than just being myself. Madison had not created that pattern, but she had definitely benefited from it. And Kyle had exploited it ruthlessly. I started doing things purely for myself. I took a pottery class I had always wanted to try, but never made time for. I traveled to Seattle alone for a weekend, just wandering the city. I reconnected with friends I had neglected while pouring all my energy into sustaining Madison's dreams. They admitted something that surprised me. We thought Madison was draining you, but we did not know how to say it without you getting defensive. I changed the apartment completely. Rearranged furniture, painted that second bedroom. It was no longer Madison's studio. Now it was my home office, decorated with my own taste. I hung photos from my solo hiking trips on the walls. The space became mine again, and it felt good. 3 months after everything fell apart, I got a promotion at work. My salary increased by $15,000 per year. I realized something important. I had been coasting in my career, not pushing myself because my energy had been going towards sustaining 2 people instead of building my own future. Now that energy went into my own growth. I heard through mutual friends that Madison had moved back in with her parents in Eugene. Kyle was apparently dating someone new already and was telling people how draining Madison had been. The pattern continuing with someone else. I felt compassion for Madison when I heard that. Not enough to take her back. Never enough for that. But enough to hope she would eventually learn something from all this. And enough to forgive the hurt she caused. Forgiveness did not mean reconciliation. It just meant releasing the weight I had been carrying. Here is what I learned through all of this. Support and control are not the same thing. Support lifts someone up while respecting their autonomy and celebrating their independence. Control tears someone down while demanding compliance and obedience. Kyle confused the two either deliberately or through his own issues. Madison believed him, but time revealed the truth in the end. Be careful who has your partner's ear. Real friends support your relationship and want to see it thrive. They do not constantly frame your partner as the problem while positioning themselves as the solution. If someone is always whispering doubts into your partner's mind about you, they might be the actual problem. Actions speak louder than accusations. Kyle called me toxic while being completely unable to handle what I handled every single day for 18 months. That invoice I sent was not really about the money. It was about making invisible labor visible. It was about showing that love is work. Real love requires sacrifice and effort and choosing someone else's well-being over your own convenience. That work has value and it deserves to be recognized, not weaponized. You cannot convince someone to value you. They either do or they do not. Madison chose to see me as her warden instead of her partner. No amount of explaining or defending or proving myself would have changed her mind. Only her own experience with Kyle could do that. And by then it was too late for us. Moving forward, I learned to value myself differently, not through usefulness or what I could provide, but through simply being present and authentic. The right person would not need convincing of my worth. They would see me clearly from the start, without someone else's filter distorting their view. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. Sometimes it takes a friend with it. And sometimes you realize that the space they left behind was not empty at all. It was finally free to be filled with something real. I do not know if Madison ever figured out what she was looking for. I do not know if she learned to trust her own judgment instead of letting people like Kyle make decisions for her. But I figured out what I was not willing to settle for anymore. I learned that boundaries are not walls, they are doors. You get to choose who walks through them. And that, I think, was the real lesson all along. So let me ask you, have you ever had someone try to convince you that the people who love you are actually hurting you? Have you been the person supporting someone only to have it thrown back in your face? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more real stories about relationships, boundaries, and finding yourself again after everything falls apart. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there who is going through something similar. Remember, you deserve someone who sees your love for what it really is. Take care of yourselves out there.